From deep in the Burbank Media District, it's time for another edition of My Burbank Talks, presented by the staff of My Burbank. Now, let's see what's on today's agenda as we join our program.
Hello, everybody. Craig Sherwood here, along with, of course, Ross Benson.
Good morning, America. Oh, wait, that was a movie. How about Good Morning, Burbank?
It's Good Morning, Vietnam, but we'll live with Burbank.
Okay. Well, I'm here. I'm awake. You're lucky I got a nap. We had dinner before. I'm raring to go.
Once again, nice dinner with Patty's and with our great little waitress, Heather.
Heather, and how do you remember her name?
I go, Heather yonder and away.
She's really, really sweet.
So, yeah, absolutely.
Good food, good service. She even had ice in your iced tea tonight.
For those listening to us live, we tried to excuse us for last week. We had an audio problem and didn't realize we were not putting audio out last week. I think we have that problem fixed, but we appreciate the emails and letting us know that, and they're all nice emails. And we also got an email about making sure we talk and not just make sign language, because the people listening on podcasts can't see our sign language. So once again, another good point. We appreciate the emails. We really do.
I will admit that I did silent movies last week. I apologize. And I said that I would throw in here, somebody sent us a note, one of our good listeners.
Yes.
That the Colony actually has 256 seats. I think I said 165 or so for last week's podcast. So it is a large theater here in town.
256 seats is a large theater.
That puts a lot of butts in seats.
Yes, it does. Well, and hopefully a lot of money in the old in the till too.
Ding ding ding. We got a lot going on.
Well, let's go back to last week.
Our clock's not on.
Let's clock our clock here. There we go.
That way we know how long we're giving you, folks.
So figure that's about 2 minutes slower than what we've been on for. So
all right.
Let's get on with the week that was, and that will be the October 16th edition.
I like our show opening.
Yeah, just saying that it's not really on the day, but something that Ross noticed when he was driving over tonight. And basically, we put down, have you seen the ranch lately? Which we're talking about the former Warner Brothers Ranch and now the Worth Ranch. Because they've changed. When Worth took it over from Warner Brothers, he changed it. Of course, he put his name on it.
There's no wording out there, but there is. I noticed that piece of property is now considered 411 Hollywood Way.
Right, and it used to be Oak.
Right. And the reason it probably resonates with me, I grew up 67 years looking at the ranch, literally on Toluca Park Drive. I watched films. I've lived, folks, I think I've said it before all those lakeside apartments, I watched movies be filmed out there when I was a young kid. Before Vaughn's and Gilbert's and Dana Drugs and Curry's Ice Cream. And the shoe shine shop and the hair shop. And
the 134 freeway.
Well, I told you the story about that. Yeah. I played on a lot. But so seeing the ranch, I drove around it twice yesterday.
Now, the ranch is on Hollywood Way between Oak and Verdugo, and the other side, the backside's Pass. And it used to have the entrance right on the corner of Hollywood Way and Oak, the main corner, and there was no entrance on Hollywood Way until actually the fire department decided to put in new stations, and they had to figure out, where am I going to put station or engine 12?
Well, when they were remodeling Station 12.
Right, so they built a temporary fire station on Hollywood Way for engine 12 to park its.
You remember it was just big enough.
Just for one engine.
4 beds.
Yep. It was the minimum. And then once they got their new station, they tore that down and got rid. And then instead of the driveway for the fire, they put a whole new entrance in.
That's right.
For the ranch. So,
well,
they're also going to put an entrance in on Pass Avenue for this new facility too.
Yes. And I noticed, I referred back to the original drawings that Worth put out. The child care center is there currently, but I don't think it'll be there in 2 weeks.
Oh.
I think it's all, you can tell. I drove by tonight coming to the studio, coming down Hollywood or Pass. You can see inside, I think it's stage 26 or 27. It's gutted inside. So I have a feeling those are coming down too. But if you've lived in Burbank and everybody's traveled past, this is a big development in our community. 36 acres.
The last time it was raised was
a couple of fires.
The famous, the famous pet. What was it? Pet adoption fire?
Well, they had one there. They had a community fair, community fair that they put on with the chamber.
Yeah.
Had Ferris wheels out there. That was when Glenn Duke, my long lost friend who was a fire investigator, investigated that fire, and they had overload of electrical back in the day. But I remember I was talking to my sister yesterday. We walked out of my house at one of the fires, and my dad was up on the roof, literally wetting it down, because those embers.
Yeah.
So
those sets, they are very combustible, and they're
well, that's the other problem.
And the embers go flying like a brush fire.
One year, the fire department made them put in sprinklers in a lot of those sets because they are literally a tinderbox.
Well, after 2 fires, absolutely.
Wait, did Warner Brothers have any losses that year on movies? Oh, I shouldn't say that. But moving on, it's a big development, and folks, I understand. I have read on social media and some of the other sites, people are just in tears about these sets being torn down. I get it, folks. But you know what? Now technology has changed. You can put anything on a green screen.
Yeah.
I mean, literally. And so this is going to be real good for Burbank. Think about it.
A lot of tax money coming from all those stage rentals.
60 new stages. Where are those people going to go shop during Christmas?
Well,
they're going to run to Magnolia Park.
Forget shopping during Christmas. How about just the craft service people need to buy their food? After you shoot the film, they need to have it edited somewhere. I mean, there's so many, they need to get props. There's just so much that goes on that you don't think, that is part of the business.
Milton Edie's?
Yeah.
They're going to be dry cleaning.
Which, right now is why all these businesses are suffering, because without the strike going on, there's a lot of ancillary businesses not getting anything. So it's really tough for them.
But I do understand people, the nostalgic of, Leave It to Beaver and I Dream of Jeannie. I remember once walking home from Jordan, and the flying nun was flying over me.
Sally Field.
You're right. And it blew me away. I remember when the monkeys were the rage, and the kids, the teeny boppers at the gate at Hollywood Way and Oak, hundreds of them to get an autograph of Davy and Mickey Dolenz and the stuff. And then later on, I was a firefighter.
Really, probably the first ever boy band. That's probably what if you go back to the starts of boy bands. That's right. You're a firefighter. I remember going to visit you several times.
Oh, Scream Gens, they fed us well.
Oh yeah, every night they always had ice cream in that refrigerator. Their freezer there's too.
If you've ever
we used to go to Fantasy Island and go deplane and all the other sets they had, and the berm. You could drive the little berm there. I think the berm actually became where the market, the development is now.
Right.
Remember the ranch used to go all the way up to Verdugo.
Exactly.
And then they carved out that corner
for Save-On.
Yeah.
Originally, and Albertsons. I forget, but there was a Pizza Hut, a jeweler, way before Carl's Jr.
Oh yeah.
Was there now the fish place, and next to it Starbucks.
Never understood why Carl's Jr. didn't have a drive-through. I never understood that. That's why I never went there.
So when people listen to this podcast, yes, for Craig and I who have lived down in the media district, the heart of it here, we've seen that ranch. I mean, if you think of the movies and everything, but you know what? There's a future now. And I just think of all the, I stopped in at Jersey Mike's one day next to Smart and Final. The guy said, "We're wiped out. We just had to make 500 sandwiches for a production company." Folks, that 500 sandwiches to a Burbank business.
10% tax. And that 10% tax, like we get 1% of it in Burbank, that all adds up. All adds up. So
we thank the Worth Company and Warner Brothers for the, thought of staying here. I remember a couple years ago, people said, "Oh, Warner's going to move out of Burbank like they did in Hollywood." No, they're not.
Yeah.
Right, like Disney's not packing their bags and moving next week. So moving on.
By the way, today was the 100th anniversary of the day Disney was founded. Not just this year. Today, October 16th, was the actual day.
And they had a special event yesterday on the lot.
Right.
For invited guests.
D23 members.
Yeah. And you could, and I've been on that lot many times, and it's just another one.
A lot of history in that lot too. A lot of, Walt Disney history and everything. I think his office is still.
It is.
The way it was, it's just as a museum piece that really nobody sees, but it's still there.
I went there for, I think Bob Frutos was mayor. He was invited, and I shot pictures. Underground, they have a whole city
Yeah.
underground, and his grandkids used to take the film, whatever they called, the big sheets that they would draw on,
All right.
and slide down the hallways on those. Now those are worth thousands of dollars, and his kids would slide down them. But thank goodness that we are the media.
It's like old baseball cards. You used to put them in spokes of your bike and not knowing that they'd someday be worth thousands of dollars.
Yeah, and so for the people that 2 years, you'll look back and you go, wow, look at this modern studio in Burbank. You get off the freeways in Burbank, people know. The other day I was turning my channel, the TV, and Laugh-In came on.
Oh.
You know how many I watched that for a few minutes. Verdugo Park, the Golden Mall, Olive Rec.
It was nothing but location shooting because they're all like, their office was over here right by the smokehouse on Lakeside where the George Slater's office was.
Oh, yeah. George Slater. But you couldn't do some of that stuff on TV these days.
By the way, I think that's where they built condos now. And I'll tell you why. Well, I'll tell you why in a little bit. I'll tell you off the air why.
Okay.
Somebody we know lives, I think, in that building.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you're right. And now I just found out that with the move, Warner Brothers moving into the icebergs, the building at Olive and Pass is now all moved. The one across from the smokehouse is all moved. That's all part of Worth Real Estate now. He's going to be
the one that right by Lakeside.
Yeah,
the opening.
Yep.
Shamrock.
No, Shamrock's across the street.
Okay, because Shamrock is the one Roy Disney actually went to and started Shamrock Entertainment after Walt died. And I think there was a little power struggle, and Roy just said, I'm going to go do my own thing.
And I don't want to date myself. I'm getting up there. I shot a private party for Shamrock. They gave away goodies. I still have them. Shamrocks in rocks, Shamrock pins. But it was that has a patio out back.
Oh, yeah.
That oversees
It's a very nice facility.
Yeah. So moving on.
Okay.
We should get to our show.
Yeah, we didn't even get to. Let's go back to last Tuesday. There was a fatal accident, tragically, at the corner of Buena Vista and Verdugo on Tuesday morning. And the pedestrian was an 82-year-old female, Marilyn Charette, who was a resident of Burbank and I guess, known by a lot of people. And evidently a truck was coming down westbound on Verdugo and made a left onto Buena Vista. And it was an oversized truck, one of those big lifted trucks. And he actually never saw her. And he stayed at the scene. There was no foul play, no intention, didn't run, didn't leave the scene.
No signs.
A lot of witnesses stayed. So yeah, it's too bad. I mean, and you can't expect an 82-year-old woman all of a sudden to jump out of a way of a car too. I mean, it really can't. I mean, there's really not much she probably could have done.
Well, we are an older community. I in fact drove by. That happened. You said on Sunday
on Tuesday.
On Tuesday night or Wednesday, there were a group of people, probably 50 to 100, doing a little memorial service on that corner. I used to live right behind Buena Vista Library.
A lot of accidents in that corner.
It is, and people, I think, again, if you ask the traffic lieutenant, the majority of accidents in Burbank are involving turns. And this is exactly.
Oh, don't you love those flashing yellow lights?
Well, that's the other thing.
It's funny. When you put those in, 5 years ago, 6 years ago, and the guy who let's spend all this money and put these lights in, where's that guy today? He didn't live in Burbank. He just came to Burbank to work, and now he's gone. He's left Burbank, and now we're stuck with the stupid blinking yellow lights.
But how many days, in the days that we used to listen to the radio, how many days do we hear paramedic calls for traffic accidents? Buena Vista and Verdugo.
Buena Vista and Victory or Burbank.
When I lived behind I would hear the calls. I wouldn't even go out anymore. It was the same thing. It was a turning radius. Somebody turned in front of somebody else.
Well, coming down Buena Vista in the afternoons around when the sun's coming down, you're going right into the sun. It's brutal.
Yeah, and if your windows are dirty, your windows are pitted, that sun, and it's always been. I am not exaggerating, Craig. I think I have shot about 5 fatals in my 40 years between Clybourne and Verdugo and Olive. I remember one I did CPR on a lady right next to McDonald's there at Reese. And I remember that first compression, every rib broke.
Yeah.
And
they said it's going to happen on real CPR, not in movie CPR.
No,
real
but
CPR.
I remember that. And again, I have been to numerous folks. Slow down. I feel sorry for that driver because he'll never forget this.
Yeah, it was tragic.
So
moving on to Wednesday, we both went to the State of the City at the.
Is there a drum roll? We don't have.
No, we don't have a drum roll yet. Here you're asking for things we don't have. No. Let's see. We had
that brought everybody to the attention.
Right. That was the dinner bell or the lunch bell, I should say.
Was that for Lurch?
Lurch, yes. Anyhow, it was a great event. Over 600 people was packed. The Chamber of Commerce put on a stellar show.
But you know what? When you say stellar show, who do we got to tap on the back for that?
Well, it's Jonathan.
Jonathan Jones, his department. He's the city PIO. They do the graphic. They do the video.
Do you know who I met on his staff? He has a whole staff there. We all had lunch at the same time. You know who I met on his staff? Besides, great people.
I know most of the people.
Well, I met Legend.
Ooh.
He's just called Legend. Because he's the guy who, I guess, comes through all the time for him. He's a Burbank High graduate. Like he said, 2016. I think his name was Daniel.
Oh, Daniel, sure.
But his nickname there is Legend. So I got to meet Legend.
Daniel, I remember, there's several people that have wanted to transfer to the PIO. One, they have a fantastic boss.
Yes.
I hear they walked in.
Probably the best PIO we've ever had in the city. And we had a couple good ones, and boy, if we had some lousy ones.
We have.
I got to tell you, Jonathan Jones is the most upbeat, positive. He gets it. He understands we have a job to do, and he just, it's not personal. If we have something negative to ask him, it's not personal. We just are trying to get information. But
well, I got to say, he told me off the side. Jonathan and I are very good friends, and he walked in, and the Marriott staff did not know the password for all the computers, for the lights, for the screens, for anything in there. They had to go to 5 different people. They had to call a Marriott somewhere else to get into the password to make the computers work. Jonathan never sweat about it.
No.
He knew.
And what happened last year?
Walks in and none of the lights work.
All the power went out.
But you know what? The show, I think it's on air. If not, we did a great story on it.
They filmed it for, I'm sure, the Channel 6. I don't have cable anymore. I couldn't tell you, but
the drone stuff that his team does, and people don't realize they're doing all their other stuff, council meetings and other shows, while they're doing all this. And I really are. My hats off.
I think he says it starts working in January, and it's not till October. So.
Definitely our hats off to, and I will say the chamber.
Yeah. And our Vice Mayor, Nick Schultz, did a great job filling in for the mayor. So I think it all worked out very well. And I'm sure next year it'll be Nick Schultz as the mayor, and he will set the tone for the entire day too. So I think he kind of just piggybacked on whatever tone was set this time, but he has a lot of input when it comes to the show itself.
And the bottom line is, I walked away from there, and I was proud of the city of Burbank. We have a lot of stuff going on, but our city is, a balanced budget. We got through COVID. We have buildings going up left and right. Look at the ranch, 36 acres. We have just the airport, going to have a new airport terminal. Just think
replacement terminal. You're not allowed to say new terminal. You're supposed to have to say replacement terminal.
You're right.
Because people get upset on new. Oh, new. What are they going to do? Bring international flights in? No. There's no international flights coming in.
No, but we still remember this. The C5A is flying out.
Oh, yes. 11:30 every third Friday night, I think it was, of the month.
If Lockheed was still there, we might be seeing them if we go to war again. But
you had to duck when those things took off because they didn't get off the ground for a long, 12 engines or 16 engines on that thing? And
Pratt Whitney engines, and we'd stand on Van Owen.
Yep.
And we'd duck, not thinking that they would clear the fence.
They had stealth fighters on them.
Yep.
So they had to transfer them to, what was it, Lancaster or Palmdale?
All over.
Palmdale, where they did the final assembly on them.
So, it's...
And by the way, my favorite part of the entire State of the City...
Oh, I knew you were going to bring
I got to bring it up. Was at the end, we had a table centerpiece for everybody, a bundt cake.
A miniature
bundt cake.
And what flavor did you get?
I got the carrot. I think you got the confetti?
I did. Boy.
Well, I'll tell you, those bundt cakes, amazing.
They might not be in Burbank, but did you see coming to Burbank? Is bundt cake something? Moving into the Empire Center.
Oh, okay. Well,
so we might get mini bundt cakes here.
Oh,
we're in trouble.
Never realized how good a bundt cake could be until you actually...
Well, everybody talks about Martino's. Martino's is great. I had today.
Well, tea cakes are on a list by themselves. They're part of the Heaven on Earth series. I've got about 10 things on the Heaven on Earth series, such as a Larry's chili cheeseburger.
Yeah.
There are certain things that just go on that list that can never be replicated, never be replaced, and just are always special.
I did a ribbon cutting today. Did you know they make mini Martino tea cakes? Little tiny round.
No, really.
Same topping. In
bite size.
And you got to do 4 or 5. Let's share that little story. We used to know a guy.
I already do 4 or 5 of the regular size.
Well, years ago, when we used to hang around late at night, we knew a guy by the name of Ron Sagnolian.
Ronnie
the
Pie Guy, we called him.
Yep, and he had a route. He'd hit all
the local restaurants around midnight to 2 a.m. He had keys to the restaurants. He'd go in, deliver the pies or the tea cakes every night.
And he would always have...
He'd always have a few extras.
And we would stop him somewhere, usually going down Hollywood Way. Yep. He would know our vehicles.
Yep.
And he would sell us a box of tea cakes for $5.
Yep.
And they were
pie
still
for $5. Yep.
hot.
Yep.
They were just, Ronnie, oh.
You think I look like this because of my good looks? I mean, I put a lot of work into this.
You got to do that again. You're now back on camera.
I'm not. That's all I need to do.
But no, those, when people talk about memories of Burbank, we'll never forget Ronnie Sagnolian tea cakes.
Nope.
Or fresh pies. So
okay, let's move on to Thursday. Park and Rec Board met, and during their oral communications, many residents came up to talk to them about the pine trees being cut down. Now, we'll get into that a little later in the show, but that was a big topic there. One of the reports is also about the Starlight Bowl, and they showed how the Starlight Bowl made money this year and everything else. We won't get into a lot right now, but I think the Starlight Bowl is the most underused, under-facilitated, it's not modern. It's old. It could be so much more. And every show the city put on this year was basically a garage band or a tribute band. There were no original acts. And you have so many acts from the 80s and 90s who play. I think it's, what do they say, 3,600 seats there around that area?
Seats, and then you have grass.
Well, includes the grass and everything. But, it's a perfect venue for your 80s bands and 90s bands who are just going touring small locations. And, they told me before, well, we want to keep our ticket prices down. So that's why we get tribute bands, because they're cheap. Well, that's great. But I think people will pay a little more to see a band that they kind of grew up with, that they, could never probably see, when they were younger. And I think that, to me, and the facility itself is so run down. If you want to put money into something, put money in the Starlight Bowl, modernize it, make it ADA capable.
There was a report done several years ago. The seats, the fiberglass seats, are 100 years old.
Yeah.
I mean, the facility, the shrubs that are next to the stage, they grew up as little trees. They are now beyond the roof of the stage. I mean, the lighting in there, my son is in lighting, and
it's archaic.
Yeah, it's worse.
The sound system is even...
Well, they bring it in.
They have to bring it in.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying, we have got this beautiful jewel in our hillside. And a private company came in and put a lot of concerts on and got good attendance. And they said not one complaint from the residents in the area on any show this year. So you tell me why we couldn't the city can't put on 20 shows. And they only put on shows from...
6 shows?
Yeah, 6 shows from June through
Late August, mid-August.
Yeah, the school goes back. Wait, what? So
Right.
this is L.A. We have good weather many more months of the year. But they say, well, we need to get ready for our Halloween thing.
Right.
Well, really? I mean, is that we got to have the Halloween thing? You can't. It takes 2 months. I'm going to get into all this later because there's so much to get into on this. But once again, and I think I get it. Park and Rec tries, but Park and Rec is wearing too many hats, and there's too many things they're trying to do at once. And instead of doing things really well with a dedicated staff, they rotate their staff around to things, and it's just.
Well, let me interject there. Chris Smith is the deputy director, and that falls under her. She's been doing it for a lot of years.
And there's no fault here. I'm not trying to fault
to
anybody.
city employees.
Yeah, I'm not trying to blame anybody here. I'm just saying is that we got to redo the entire thing here. We heard with the Colony Theater. Well, with the person who's going to do the RFP, something happened at DeBell, and he had to leave the Colony and go to DeBell, and that took 8 months, so nobody could do the call. We've got 300 people working Parks and Rec, and what, one guy can only do the jobs there? How many times do we hear when somebody takes a week off? Oh yeah, we can't. You have to wait till next week when so and so comes back. Or
what is your favorite line? Let's pull the folder out from last year.
Yeah, let's pull the book out from last year,
and let's do it exactly
the same way. There's no. What can we do to make it special this year? Let's do what we did last year.
And they have the egress and egress out of there. That place can be emptied. July 4th, I witnessed it. It's a few minutes of a traffic problem.
Do you know one of the tribute bands actually had better attendance than the 4th of July?
Yeah, I saw that.
The 4th of July doesn't even sell the ball out anymore.
Yeah.
So.
Well, we'll talk about that further down.
Yeah, that's going to be a new subject we're going to work on down the line here. But
between that and trees,
that's on my radar. That is on my radar. The Starlight Bowl, and it's not mismanaged, but it's not managed the way it could be, and it's not. We made $20,000 on it this year, or whatever it was. Well, that's great, but we could make $200,000. And we put $1 surcharge on every ticket that's sold by bringing a private producer in to run it.
Well, what did you say down at SoFi?
SoFi or the Forum or Staples, they all put on a $1 surcharge on the tickets that pays for city services, wear and tear, but also goes into the city's budgets, and it's a windfall. I mean, that's why the city fought for that football stadium so much, because they knew it was a windfall. So, we'll get into it later. I mean, I just think it just bothers me that it could be some. I mean, look at the Hollywood Bowl. Oh, people go there they don't care what the event is or how much it costs. It sells out every time.
My son talked to me last night. He's been working at CBS down on Beverly Hills and doing Dancing with the Stars, and he comes home. Not a lot of many ways you can get to Burbank.
No,
and he goes by the bowl, and
you better get there while the show's in progress, because if it's afterward,
right. Yep.
Yeah, it's traffic city.
Yep. So we'll talk about Starlight Bowl, because we have. I know there's a gentleman out there that has made a proposal. And again, the city is.
Well, we'll try. Maybe we'll do a whole separate podcast on it.
That's a good idea.
Because I think it's something that people should really understand. We
have a lot of podcasts going.
Well, we do.
And you know what? The comments that we're getting, people are listening to.
I'm surprised. We enjoy doing this, but I'm surprised. I'm glad people listen, though. I'm glad we're trying to give them information maybe they didn't know, and now we'll go on.
No offense, but I think. I know there's a lot more people listening to our podcast than listen to Barney the baseball cop, or whatever it is.
Barney the baseball cop,
or whatever his new term is.
You mean Barney Baseball?
That's who it is.
Gives the well, guess so. Tonight's gonna be Frank Football.
Oh, great!
So
I was told I got calls about that we didn't talk about yet.
Well, let me tell you what. That's getting more views than our show is.
That's not true. We do have. I think our last looking at some of our numbers, we got over 5,000.
I'm talking about on the podcast. Yeah. But yeah, we've had over 5,000 downloads on our podcast in 6 months now. So
isn't this people like listening to this when they're out walking?
Get a life, people. No, no, absolutely not. We appreciate the comments. We appreciate when people say. I'm always so surprised. Really, you listen to this? Oh, how great! I mean, it's great. Let's go to Friday real fast. Friday, we had a check passing ceremony at the Armenian Youth Center. $100,000 check from
How much?
100.
Isn't there a ching ching to ding
Well, we
ding?
do. We have that, of course. We have $100,000 check from that Laura Friedman presented on behalf of the taxpayers of California to the Armenian Youth Center, and you were there for the check passing?
Yeah, that was, a lot of people don't realize on Santa Anita at Akia Way, there is a building there that is the Armenian Youth Center, and there are kids there every day, basketball, volleyball, there's classes that go on. They have a huge room.
Now, is Armenian only, or is it any kid in the neighborhood?
Oh, there's other kids that go there.
That's great.
Saw.
That's great.
But apparently, their roof leaks, so the tiles are fallen. It needs a roof. They're going to put solar in to save some electricity, and the city will get some of that. So Laura Friedman, the people she met with, the Sarkis and some other people, there's 2 Armenian groups in Burbank, and from that center, they met with Laura Friedman, and they learned how to go through the grant process, and they applied. And Laura made sure she was there and presented them a check for $100,000.
Yeah, wow.
And we'll have the story.
Well, the story
as soon as they send us some paperwork.
Yep.
I was there to shoot it, and they always, it's funny. I go to that. I've been to that place many times. Last time it was pouring down rain, and I remember David Laurel got a picture of me literally drenched.
And you were not a happy camper.
Oh, I was not a happy camper. But you know what? I walk in the door, and they always shove food in my face.
There you go. No, that's why we look like we do.
Fresh fruit. They always say, Ross, go eat. Yep. So I'm grateful for all of our Armenian friends that have kids that go to that center, and it's a great place that deserved $100,000 of our money.
This weekend, Gain Credit Union, one of our very gracious sponsors on our website, or our advertisers who have been with us for a long time, and we really appreciate them. They put their pumpkin patch in on Saturday, I believe, and you stopped by, didn't you?
Yes, sounds. I had to think. My weekend was a blur. I covered so much. They in that auxiliary parking lot to the west of Gain Credit Union, 1800 Magnolia, they had, I don't know how many vendors selling their wares. They brought in a truck full of pumpkins. I got there a little late because I had to cover something else. They went through several hundred pumpkins, and that money went to a local scout troop.
That's good.
And Gain, again, they're doing, remember we covered the art show that was there? They had some really cool pumpkins.
Oh, they do a lot of community events. I know, and UME the same thing. A lot of community events at UME. So
it was a very, very successful. We'll have a follow-up story in my Burbank the next day or so, and then the next day
on Sunday at Burbank High, somebody dropped their golf ball. In fact, somebody dropped their golf balls. More like, how many did you say? 5,000?
Yeah,
5,000 golf balls got dropped from the top of a Burbank fire truck.
Yep.
Not an engine, a truck, because it has the equipment. It has the
just ask Heather
ladders.
the difference.
Yes. Remember now, trucks don't have water.
They took what they did, and again, the Kiwanis Fun Day is what it was, and they sold the long term of roses as a fundraiser. You could buy a golf ball. They had so many. They had what called a stoke basket.
That's a big basket the firefighters go up in to put the fire out. Right, yeah.
Rescue people.
Right.
They filled it 3 times, dropped the balls out, and there was a stake and a bullseye. The winner, which we will have in our story, won $5,000. But the animal shelter was there. The police department was there giving an obstacle course. There was a car show. I got a picture. The pink PD Cruiser was out there. The Bearcat was out there. I never knew the animal shelter now has, besides the big dog, they have a big kitty cat too.
Oh.
So we got pictures of that. But you think about the last time you went to a driving range, and there's a couple hundred balls out in the field. 5,000 balls on the upper field at
Yep.
Burbank High.
That field that they can't use for anything.
Yeah.
So they finally found a purpose for it. And
So,
then also this weekend, Providence St. Joseph's had a reunion of the children, I guess, who were born in the neonatal unit.
the NIC unit, for
NIC
short.
unit.
And everybody knows these terms. NIC is Neonatal Intensive Care Unit. And I guess before COVID, they used to have a reunion of these kids. These are kids that are preemies.
Right.
And they're born.
You were worried about will they make it or not, and of course they've made it and having great lives now.
I will tell you, my sister was a neonatal nurse, not at St. Joe's. I visited her once or twice, and I have seen babies the size of my hand be born, and they live. There's, I know what the chances are now with the medical history and medical procedures. These kids all live. They had a reunion at St. Joe's. I didn't make it. We were invited. I was covering too many other things. But congratulations to all those parents that worried night and day, and your kids were in the neonatal section, and St. Joe's is one of the better neonatal sections.
Yep.
I can say my 2 granddaughters were born at St. Joe's.
Okay, well, with that, we're going to take a quick commercial break, and we'll be back with you for the week that will be.
How would you like your business advertised in this very spot? My Burbank Talks is looking for local businesses interested in a 30-second spot to appear in our podcasts. If you're interested, please email advertising@myburbank.com, and we'll be glad to discuss all of the exciting possibilities with you. Now, back to our podcast.
And we're back. In fact, we actually have possibly a couple advertisers who want to start with us. And got some exciting things. In fact, might even be giving us some gifts to give out also to our listeners. So stand by for that maybe next week.
Well, people are, picking up on our podcast.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, when I'm out at the State of the City, people will say, loving the podcast.
Yeah, I couldn't believe when people came up to me. It's like, everyone, how did you know who I was? I guess get my ugly mug on the stupid camera now, which...
Well, if you notice, folks, we lit him up a little better. We changed the f-stop on the camera. You can now see he really does have a goatee, and he combed his hair.
Did I comb my hair this time?
Well, you have more than me, so I notice it. So,
well, let's see. Today we woke up to a house fire on East San Jose. Reported in a bedroom we caught fire, and first engine in reported smoke coming from the side of the house. No flames visible, but there was smoke, and I think it took about an hour. And first a full assignment plus a couple of engines were dispatched also. You got there real quick, and
well, I got there after.
Well, but you got there enough to see somebody holding a hose.
Well, I got holding the hose and saw the occupant. That fire department jumped on it. It was reported as a house fire. Burbank sends a full alarm assignment, which is 2 engines, a truck, 2 trucks, a battalion chief, and as soon as now with mutual aid, they had a Glendale engine come in. They had a Glendale battalion chief come in, and then the incident commander of this incident, as soon as he heard that there was smoke, he rolls 2 additional engines and additional paramedics. So they were well prepared. It's what they call a contents fire. Something in the room was on fire. They moved in, got the fire out, never extended or moved into the attic, because that's when
that's it hits in the attic.
You're in trouble.
Yeah.
But they a quick knockdown. We didn't get a dollar value on loss, but there was no injuries. The 2 occupants of the house were out. Engine 11 was first in, truck 11. They did a heck of a job. Burbank guys always do.
Who's your BC today?
Garcia.
Okay. Very good.
But I got there as I was going to another event and got a couple of shots, and it's always good to see our guys are the best. Our firefighters are the best. So.
Well, also today we had one of our favorite commissions, the Burbank Sustainable Commission. They met at 6:00, and their big thing today, they had a few things on the agenda, but their big thing was the Amber Duran from the Burbank Recycle Center came in, and they were introduced the single-use foodware, plastics, toxics, and litter reduction ordinance that the council is going to get in September. Or actually, this is September. This is October. I guess they're. I guess
they asked for a little extension.
Yeah, they asked for a little extension. I guess. Yeah, I just kind of copied and pasted. And I'm reading that. Saying, wait a second, September what? No, not next September.
Well, you remember
they'll get it probably, in a couple of weeks.
They said before the end of the year.
Yeah, and we went to that meeting a couple weeks ago.
Well, I was just going to say, we went to that meeting. Every time I get a container now, I look what number it is. It's funny.
Well, you know what? We're going to bring Amber. She was in for a podcast before with Women of Burbank with
Ashley.
Ashley, but we're going to bring her in for an issues podcast and talk about this, and because it's going to be a big change for residents, and they're going to be caught off guard a little bit about what they're going to be doing and how they're going to be, what kind of plastics and.
But you and I attended one meeting, 2 hours maybe, or not even that. And it's funny how your brain resonates of, what we can use and what we can't use.
Well, here's my big takeaway, which I think is going to shock a lot of people. Any restaurant that has 31 or more seats will have to use reusable silverware.
Real stuff.
Real stuff. So that means you go to McDonald's, you're going to use a knife and a fork that's metal. You're not going to use a plastic one. So either two things will happen. Either they'll have to put in a dishwasher and have somebody, clean the utensils, or two, they'll have to take seating out and get below 30 seats in the restaurant.
I don't think people realize we make a lot of trash, and we only have so much place to put it. We used to sell plastics to have stuff remade and so forth. Well, things are changing.
And a lot of plastics can't be recycled. It's plastic, recycle it. Well, not always, so.
Oh, what did we learn that day? That the machinery of Burbank
does not recognize black utensils. So when you see a black fork or black knife, plastic knife, Burbank Recycling cannot.
It'll take it, but it won't won't be recycled. That was I went out and got some food yesterday at a new place here in town, and it was the reusable cardboard. And they put a piece of paper inside to keep it from draining through. But I noticed they used bread to sop up anything that was inside. And it had a plastic lid on it. But again, I noticed.
Well, it might cost you an extra quarter, 50 cents a meal. But you know what? In the long run, we got to do something. We can't just keep going the way we are. So we'll get Amber in for once this comes on the council agenda and gets, maybe after the first reading and before the second reading, we'll have her on.
Well, real quickly, I was just thinking, Greg, people that move into Burbank, you just take your trash, right? Like, put in the trash can outside. You don't have to think about it. If you're in an apartment, that company recycles. But for residents, we have our own landfill. We have our own recycle center.
Yeah.
And all this stuff is now required. Burbank's a full-service community.
Well, these are all state laws that are coming in, too. We're not just doing this on our own. I mean, these are all state laws that we're getting proactively in front of.
Yep.
Well, let's see. Also today, the Transportation Commission met, and one of the things on their agenda was to discuss to review the draft of the Rancho Providencia Neighborhood Protection Plan. Basically, this is what we call the Raising Cane's fallout. And because of Raising Cane's that they've had to do, they call it neighborhood protection in that area, and they've already done, street closures and no parking and everything else. So the recommendations that they're going to send to the council is to maintain the speed humps that were put in on Reese Place, maintain and keep the parking permit program on Reese Place and Orchard, maintain and keep the temporary Orchard Drive closure for one additional year. Right now, Orchard Drive, you cannot drive down it. It's closed off. But for one more year, keep it closed. Also recommend a couple additional locations for speed humps in the area to kind of stop on the speeding. But they also recommend no additional street closures, too.
But I want to make comment here. The reason some people are saying, why are we still talking about this? It's still a problem.
It's still a problem. Those people still live there,
But they have opened the new Raising Cane outside of Burbank. That has reduced the number of people coming here. But as you and I know, we went to Talleyrand a couple weeks ago, and she has a note there for her customers that you can now park on Reese.
Yes, in the morning.
Breakfast for her
in the mornings, but not later at night.
Exactly. So the city is
they're trying to help her
work it out.
And by the way, that Texas toasted Raising Cane's, yeah, it's pretty good. But you know what? There's nothing else there that if I saw a line of more than 3 cars, would ever get me to drive into that drive-through. I don't think it's chicken, people. It's just chicken. You got down Chick-fil-A. I think Chick-fil-A might be a little better than Raising Cane's as far as the quality of the chicken, but hey, to each his own.
They have a marketing method of getting kids, teenagers,
Yep.
and, early 20s that just flock.
They'll grow up someday. They'll get a palate.
Yeah.
Moving on to tomorrow, the city council is going to meet
your
at
favorite
6
day of the
p.m.
week.
Yep. Now we talked about the pine trees earlier, and one of the things on their closed session, which is where the council meets with the city attorneys only, is they're going to talk about a lawsuit that's been filed by Guardians of the Pines. They're an unincorporated association versus the city of Burbank, undoubtedly about the pine trees that are being taken out on Niagara. We don't have much more than that. We're going to try to find out more but the city usually does not talk about ongoing litigation.
Well, they don't talk about litigation, but we did a podcast or 2 ago. They had a forester come in and literally say,
and in all honesty, the people in the meeting at the Park and Rec were saying, why haven't you gotten a second? If you're going to have a major surgery, you get a second opinion. Why not get a second? And I kind of agree with that. I can't agree. Why not? It's something that's this big and it means so much to people. Why not get that second opinion?
But the city, I read that report, 76 pages. Tell me I don't have a life, but honestly, they came up with 4 pine trees
that need to be immediately removed.
That if we have a big storm, we're going to be in trouble.
Yeah.
But you drive down Magnolia this week and last week in front of Pinocchio's or Monte Carlo's. That tree that had a 4-foot base is no longer there.
Well, this has been a program on, every once a year we get somebody saying they're taking the trees out of Magnolia, and yet we've had stories on it saying this is what they're doing. It's a 5 to 6 year project. They're removing, 10, 15 trees every year and replanting with new trees because the roots are tearing the sidewalks up.
Well, I did a ribbon cutting, last week at Three Sisters?
Right.
Looked across the street, and I literally said to somebody, look at the canopy, what they call the canopy. It went from over the businesses to the middle of Magnolia. Great for shade, I will agree. Yeah. But you know what? The next rain, the fire department has to worry about all those flat roofs.
Because the leaves fall on the roof, and then what do? They block the drain.
Yep.
And when it rains, it's like when you get a snowpack on a roof. It's the same kind of weight.
Exactly. So the city is, they've had Magnolia, I think this is what, the 5th or 8th, 9th year that they've cut down so many in the year.
And they don't want to, but they have to. This is something, nobody wants to do that. I mean, but they have to because of all the different reasons.
And some people don't realize.
The city doesn't want to be sued every other day about their trees.
Well, when you go out and your car has been smashed or your house, but also.
And in the 40s and 50s when they're planning, they weren't thinking about this.
How long ago? Some of these trees they are saying.
I'm talking about the ones in Magnolia.
Oh, right.
But the ones on, the ones on Niagara, they say are 100 years old.
Yeah.
They were here probably before Burbank.
Well, I wonder who, when they cut those trees down, who stood there and count those circles.
We actually have a pine tree in our backyard, and I found a picture of Burbank in like 1923 or something. And this house was built in 1942. But in this whole area, there's no house. It's just empty area. But there's that tree sitting there. We're talking about 100 years ago. Then I could see that tree, and I go, that's where my house is going to be someday. It's the same tree that's still sitting there over 100 years later.
So you think about it. You're a homeowner. That tree in a big rainstorm comes down and knocks your roof and gives you.
We're actually having it trimmed in 2 weeks, and the bill is around $4,500 just to have it trimmed. And we do that about every 3 to 4 years.
It's funny. My friend David Laurel, who is a columnist for The Leader, he ran some pictures last week. He had all his trees. I think it was $5,000 worth of tree. But he said, you got to do it.
You have to. See, once again, the whole, you can't get the whole landlord-tenant thing, but landlords, if they need trees trimmed on the property, the tenant's not paying for that. The landlord is. Now, I'm paying $4,500 to have these trees trimmed. If I was renting, So how many months would it take me to get the rent back just for that alone? So I mean, yeah.
But you have to take in consideration. We have a big storm. We are changing.
Yeah, we have to be responsible.
And you were a tenant, and you got knocked out of your apartment. That landlord has to put you up, and all the stuff, you know.
Is that before or after they sue you? So, yeah, if I had an ADU, I would probably be a lot more worried.
So we kind of wonder what the in closed session.
So that's in closed session. And they're also going to talk about their negotiators going to talk about the contract with the Burbank BPOA, Burbank Police Officers Association. They're up for their contract.
Well, that's Bonnie Maticknock.
It was about 1 year ago that the fire department was going into negotiations, and we did I did an opinion piece also on that saying we've got to pay our fire department top dollar. I don't care if it's more. I mean, I don't want to pay more taxes. As a homeowner, I don't want to pay more. But you know what? Some things you've got to pay for. And a great fire department is one of those, and they gave them a great contract. They're very happy. Now we got to take care of our police officers because...
Well, I know they did quite a bit with their pensions, and they made quite a bit. But Craig, you witnessed it last week. You saw when we were in the police lobby.
I saw
a young officer who we would like to keep here.
Yes, we don't...
For a 25, 30-year career.
Moreno.
And
we don't want to lose a guy like that.
Somebody like that, he's new. He's been on the street for maybe a year. You don't want him to look at another department that's offering more. Our city needs to negotiate with BPOA. I know you and I are both supportive, and they really need to.
Once again, we can't just give them what the other cities are paying. We got to do better. We got to do it so not only are they happy, but they don't want to look anywhere else. And
do you remember years ago, people would love to work in Burbank, stay here, make a career, a 20, 30-year career.
Because you look at it, you put somebody through the academy, they go through the sheriff's academy, and that costs Burbank money. And then you sit there and you got to, for 1 year, you do training. And then there's ongoing training for a couple of years. And during that time, they're also getting experience. And then some other department says, hey, we'll give you $20,000. Come on over to our department. And all of a sudden now we've lost all that investment. And, we've lost that experience. And it just can't, we fixed that for the fire department. We're not losing people anymore. People are staying do it for the police department now too. Yep. Take care of those people. Pay them a little more. I get it. And by the way, I just found out last week that an old player of mine, Ricky Perez, is now a Burbank police officer. So shout out to Ricky. I haven't talked to him yet. If you're out there, Ricky, give me a call.
We people move to Burbank. It used to be the schools, but they come here for city safety services.
Yeah.
Where else can you pick up a phone? I remember, I think it was either Bud Overham or Mike Davis. Pick up a phone, you dial a 3-digit number, and you are guaranteed to see whatever service you called at your front door within 3 minutes.
Yeah.
Well, we need to pay those people well.
Absolutely. On the council agenda, there's not going to be the report coming from the airport authority. I'm sure they're going to talk about the progress of the replacement terminal.
Well, they also, I saw on a report, there's a lot, AQMD,
right.
Reusable. They're talking about the solar panels that they want to put on the Ritzy. That's a big long-term project.
The Ritzy is the parking structure over at Avon and Hollywood Way.
Correct. And then the replacement terminal is really, really moving along. I mean,
the icon.
Yeah.
The icon. And it will be an icon.
Hope we're all around for that grand opening.
You know who will be going to the icon for a flight? Legend. Okay. The council is also going to adopt, I should say. I think this is their second reading, so this time it gets adopted. The drive-through restaurant ordinance. So basically, you're going to have a restaurant, a current drive-through restaurant closes for over 3 months. They're going to have to reapply and get a CUP, which is a conditional use permit, to reopen, and the public will have input or not if they should reopen it as a drive-through. There's going to be restrictions on what they call stacking. So we have to have a minimum length of 300 feet as measured along the center line from the point of entry or the beginning of a drive-through lane to the center of the farthest service window. That's called the stacking distance.
That was also a mouthful.
Yes. And there's also, for new drive-throughs, the drive-through lane shall be a separate lane from the circulation routes and aisles necessary for ingress and egress from the property or access to any off-street parking spaces, which means if you look at In-N-Out right now, they've blocked out 10, 15 parking places so they can have cars line up. So now you've lost that parking. You look at the Taco Bell over on Magnolia and I think it's Rose. And if you park and go inside the Taco Bell and there's a line of cars in a drive-through and you go out, you can't back your car out because there's cars blocking you. So there's a lot of things that of course, existing restaurants that are open, drive-throughs, business as usual. But this is all be for all new restaurants, all new drive-throughs that want to come in. And once again, thank you, Raising Cane's, because you have really raised some cane in our city.
Well, for convenience, I get it. Mommies with kids, 2 kids asleep in the back seat,
or people who can't walk very well.
Yeah, I mean the
I know one of them very well.
Going through line, I know so many parents that will find a drive-through, but Burbank's had to change how things operate.
Yeah,
years ago. Hey, I can tell you when the freeway was new, my sister back in '63 on a Friday night, the line from Bob's would come out to Pass Avenue. And if it got past the freeway off-ramp, it would take you an hour to get to Bob's. This is no new problem, folks. 63 is a couple years ago.
I remember back in the day to go park in the drive-thru at Bob's, you'd have to go in, and the queue line would go to the old parking lot, around the old parking lot, down and around, and yeah, it took. I mean, my parents would sit in that line because I wanted to get a Bob's Big Boy, and they would sit in that line for me and go through. They get a car hop service, but they don't have that nowadays whatsoever. But because now all you have is in fact they don't even have a drive-through anymore, which I think is sad.
So we have to blame Dorothy and Gordon, Donna and Gordon on that. Wait in that line in that station wagon, which you owned until your dad passed away. I remember seeing that brown car putting around town.
Absolutely. The last thing with the new ordinance is that new restaurants can only be open from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. unless it's approved as part of their conditional use permit. They're also going to have a public hearing on ADUs. Okay, and ADUs are the accessory dwelling units that everybody's putting in their backyards now. And they're going to change it around to basically match the state laws that are in place. And Burbank's ordinances conflict with state laws, and a local ordinance and a state law come together. The state law always has precedence because state laws, just like a federal law beats a state law. Well, a state law beats a local law, just like a full house beats a flush. What else are they going to be doing? They're going to have a consideration, and this shows you how long sometimes it takes to get things on the agenda. Council member Sharon Springer had requested the opportunity for the council to consider the installation of an Armenian genocide memorial at the front of City Hall. And the Armenian community will pay for it. But they want to have it for Genocide Remembrance Day on April 24th every year. But they want the in front of the City Hall, which is a historical building, and then have the monument put there. So this is something brought on by Sharon Springer, and no member of the Constantine Anthony and Nick Schultz were part of that council back then. But that's at least 10 months old, maybe a year old by now. And so that they're going to talk about that and see.
Well, I would like to hear some input on that because I know there are other things in front of Burbank City Hall, and it's not that I'm against memorials.
No, absolutely.
But something like this, you have to think prominent location.
Are we going to have a 9/11 memorial there? Are we going to have now maybe, sad to say, maybe an Israeli memorial there.
Well, we're going to do a dedication next month at Buena Vista Park of Matthew Pavelka. I just saw the invite for November 11th. There's now a plaque and a flagpole.
I'm not against any of this, but the problem is that if you're going to give it to one group, you're going to have to give it to all the groups, and every group is well-meaning and well-deserved. But at what point does it all of a sudden start to diminish what the one purpose is? So I don't know. I don't know what the answer to this is. It's something the council is going to have to take up.
And I think the next item that we have on our notes. Yeah,
this is something from back in. I think this is back from the from Gay Pride Month.
Right.
I should say it's the alphabet month, like I call it. It's got so many alphabets, and plus and minuses and everything else. And I wish they'd come up with one easy to pronounce name that takes it all into account. I'm all supportive of it, but it's just hard to remember. Make sure you don't leave a letter out or something, Anyhow.
But I've looked at City Hall for years and years. I remember before they had pine trees in front of the City Hall. You put flags. Again, you and I have been on that roof.
Let's talk about what they're considering. They want to talk about the procedure for flag and light displays on city property. And because right now, only certain things can be put on the flagpoles. And, they want to be able to put different organizations on, and they're talking about, do we need to put a new flagpole in? They said right now that right now in the city of Burbank, that city-owned property, there are 21 facilities that have a single flagpole, 2 facilities boast 3 flagpoles, and 1 facility has a pair of flagpoles.
Why isn't a pair the same as 2? Oh, never mind.
Well, they don't eat the pair. It's a.
But I have a question. Last week, when this Israeli conflict, Los Angeles City Hall lit up in blue, like that.
Oh, yeah.
2 weeks before that, there was something else lit up in orange for that.
And the airport does it too.
Right.
Those things they put in for the Olympics that were temporary, that are still going today.
But
and it'll be there for the next Olympics.
I will say, and I like the colors on Burbank City Hall. But there's now new technology. There's LEDs.
Yeah.
And you can just push a button.
Push a button and they turn whatever color you want to turn.
And for many years, the guys used to go up there and put a piece of gel paper over all the lights. Let's maybe, when they look at this, they should look at
modernizing their lighting system if they want to do things like this. Exactly. Absolutely. I mean, look at all the sports stadiums now. They've all changed their LED lighting to now they can go off and on and blink and everything else. But back in the old days, you turned the lights off in a stadium, you had to wait 20 minutes for them to regenerate and go back on again. Now you can, Dodgers hit a home run, the stadium starts blinking all over the place.
Well, it was signed by, I think, Governor Schwarzenegger several years ago. Incandescent bulbs are no more. LED, light emitting diodes, burn for about 100,000 hours. You put something in,
and less expensive.
It's expensive, but also think about
but it's less
you don't
expensive
have to
in the long run to run them. Yep. And I think our street lights have all gone to LEDs. Yep. So it's not like we're not using LEDs, but maybe we're not using them in a place we could use them. And you know what? Once again, if it's a cost of $10,000 or $20,000 replace all these lights and with a nice color thing that we can do in terms of turmoil or support or whatever, I have no problem. Sometimes the flagpole thing might be a little different because now you have to erect flagpoles and everything else. But it's easy to change lights to supportive colors at nighttime.
Well, you remember every year you have me go out and shoot. The fire department has a day that they do water and power building, all the fire stations. Warner Brothers does the tower. Disney does their tower. So there are a lot of events that warrant changing the color of the building, but let's get it working so it's pretty easy to do with technology.
Well, that's it for the council meeting. Let's move on to Wednesday. We've got a police commission meeting. Now, a couple of weeks ago, the police commission and the city council met together. The president of the police commission, I can't remember, what his name?
Combs?
Yeah.
Mr. Combs?
He stood up and
said...
Not
president, he's the chairman.
The chairman of the police commission stood up and told the council all these things the police commissioner were, and everyone was a report they got. And every report they got took staff hours to put together. staff hours to present. And after they got each one of those reports, what'd they do with those reports? They said,
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Moving on. And so once again, we start off this next meeting with a presentation that they want on the MET teams, which is the mental health evaluation teams and Street Plus. So I'm sure they had to put a report together. They'll deliver the report. And then, it always says on the agenda, and then what recommendations, if any, do you want to give? Of course, there'll be no recommendations. It'll just be, thank you for the report. Thanks for using all your staff time and out, Then they move on.
I brought this up yesterday to one of the commissioners. I won't say the name because, but we talked about it, and there's many things that they do at their meeting. He just shakes his head. He cannot believe, there's a lot of, disagreement amongst our commissioners, and it's unfortunate. And I think some of it.
And real issues aren't even being talked about. Such as for us, a real issue being the encryption of radios, and that we can no longer listen to any Burbank police calls, and we don't know what's going on, and we can't help residents saying, hey, there's something in the area, you need to lock your door. We have no, and guess what? That was never brought to the commission, never talked about with the commission. What good is a commission?
Well, okay, tonight we're recording this, and before we were working on our show notes, folks, real time, LAPD put out, we heard somebody with a gunshot wound went to Providence, St. Joe's, and then we listened to North Hollywood LAPD. They had an active shooting incident.
2 to 3 victims, at least one fatality at the scene.
Folks,
at more
none of it was encrypted. None of it was delayed. We heard the officers talking when he said, I have a victim with several gunshot wounds. That turned out to be a dead body. We heard it as it was happening. There is no reason. I mean, it's just frustrating. I know we've met with the chief and they're trying to work things out, but we want to keep our community informed. That is our purpose. I've said that from day one.
There was a situation today where I guess there was a bomb threat made with the LA Archdiocese for all the Catholic schools in LA County.
Right.
And I guess St. Finbar, I still don't know. Maybe they were evacuated or they closed the school or whatever happened. But a lot of people are saying, what's going on? I went to the police social media, not a word. Now, later I got an email after I put that out. I got an email from the police department and said, well, here's what happened. There was a bomb threat and some of the schools, contact the Archdiocese for more information. Well, it would be nice if Burbank PD, since we can't listen and we can't tell people, hey, it's all under control, don't worry, at least Burbank PD could have put out, there's been a bomb threat or something at all the Catholic, and for precaution's sake, we have a police presence, everything is fine. There's no, just to let people know that there's no problem, there's no active problem, because they see 4 or 5 police units at a school. What's the first thing in their minds? Oh my God, we have a shooting there or something. That's the way our society is nowadays. So
it's unfortunate with social media,
people just come off with it right away.
But I will say I got several texts myself from people that text me asking me questions, and it's unfortunate that we can't get and supply them the information in a timely manner.
Yeah, the police say, well, call our watch commanders and get there. So every time we hear something, we're supposed to call the watch commander and get information. I don't. I think the chief is trying his best, but I think right now we're in a situation that, and I said before, when LAPD were to go encrypted, and all of a sudden now every news station could not hear any more police calls, and the helicopters couldn't hear pursuits, and all, you'd watch all those major news media start suing. You're starting legal action. That's what it's going to take. Because right now, CBS or NBC, they can't hear Burbank. You know what? They don't care. They don't listen to Burbank much anyway. What goes on in Burbank to them? But to us, it's our world. But to them, they don't really care. You know what they do? They follow our tweets.
Burbank is 10,000 at night. During the day when we put out stuff,
240,000.
And what is our Twitter following as of today?
48,100.
So a lot of people follow us because they want to know what's going on in town. And when your local law enforcement wants to shut out the community, this is how they do it. Let's go encrypt it. I get why they did it.
No, we understand. We agree with why they did it. But there needs to be a medium. And right now, even if we got extremely delayed radio signal. That's still not going to help at the moment. But we're trying to work it out with the chief. The chief is very understanding. The chief met with us for over an hour. We were very grateful for his time. But it sounds like it is what it is.
Let's get back to our show notes.
Yeah.
The presentation of the mental health evaluation team. The chairman of the Burbank Police Commission works for LA County Mental Health. We can't get a clinician so we can have two teams.
We have it budgeted.
Budgeted, the vehicle, everything.
But we can't get a second team. So we have one team that works X amount of hours, and when they're off the clock, there's the police officers in the field and the fire department people, no help from mental health at all.
And I do want to say that I did read, there was a very lengthy report that was issued today in the city manager notes. I believe it was Constantine Anthony who asked for the report of mental health being shifted to the fire department.
Yes.
And if you want to, we won't bring it up here, but if you want to read the report, it's online. And the fire department
is totally against it.
Is adamantly against it because there's confidentiality. There's a lot of things, and I totally get it.
I understand why he asked for it, because the paramedics will treat these people, but it's the police who are dealing with them on a more, like an Officer Moreno. They're not calling paramedics for the man in the station who was worried that the world was going to get him.
Well, today was a good example. I heard Buena Vista and Olive at the gas station got dispatched as a mental health item, so they rolled engine 15. Engine 15 requested PD because the guy was sitting in his car drunk. Now, didn't need an engine company to tell them that, but it just kind of gets me. Everything now with this mental health, and I remember when firefighters went on fire calls.
Yeah,
98% of their calls were up there.
Well, like I said the other day, if there was a Met team available and Officer Moreno could have been able to call them in to work with that person, he would have been back on the streets suppressing crime, possible crime. Instead, I admire what he did. But you know what? I don't think that's what he signed up for, was to spend 20 minutes with a person who was thinking that, he was in danger. So I think that's why you need these Met teams, and we need to get our people back on the streets where they belong, our first responders.
You and I go back to the day, 272 East Olive. They didn't have canines. They didn't have SWAT. They didn't have mental health evaluation teams. They didn't have this specialized unit. Now, law enforcement has changed quite a bit.
We also remember when they used to put the homeless in the back of a police car and give them that free ride to Hollywood.
Yeah.
Those were, it was a different time. That would never happen today.
Can't do that today.
No, it would never happen. Okay.
But there was only one last thing. I think the update. The Traffic Bureau making a presentation
on back to school traffic. And once again,
commissioners, I'm telling you personally, if you're a commissioner, go sit in front of Burbank High any day of the week. Commissioners, if you want to see what's happening, instead of getting a report from a traffic officer,
go sit in front of school at 2:30 or 3 o'clock and watch all the problems.
You'll find out a lot more than you're going to hear from that report. I'm sorry, these commissioners are appointed, and sometimes I listen to the reports they get, and they thank everybody. They're very informative.
Oh, yeah, great reports.
But it also took that officer an hour or two to prepare it.
And then what do they do with it? It always says on the agenda, have discussion and any recommendations, if any, by the commission. Well, what's the last time they recommended something to the council? I mean, one time a year maybe? Anyhow.
Well, go on to the next one, because that's another one.
Update, discussion, and recommendations, if any, on the effects of the LA County Task Force towards smash and grab thefts. The task force that we have never heard one thing about from the Burbank Police Department. And I guess they're on part of the task force, but they have never put a thing out saying anything about the task force. If they've been involved in anything, if it's been part of the arrests that have gone on, we have not heard one word. So I guess we'll hear the report, of what goes on in this task force that, once again, it's another project that we know nothing about because we don't get information on it. I mean, okay, can we go ask we could call every day and ask 10 or 20 questions. But that's not how it works sometimes, So any other comment, Ross, or?
No, it's just frustrating because I listened to that meeting fully, and I know the officers that are always giving the reports to the lieutenants, and it's like, folks, they have a lot more better important stuff to do.
Yep.
Than if you can't go see for yourself,
Okay.
for these commissioners.
Well, let's move on to Thursday. Ross,
are we shaking?
You have to grab your toupee.
Are we shaking?
No, you already shook off, didn't it, last year?
Oh, wait. My toupee. I lost my toupee in the shakeout last year.
There you go. 10:19 a.m. on Thursday is once again the Great California. They're not American. They don't have earthquakes in Montana, I guess.
Yeah, they do.
Do they have in Montana?
Sure, those mountains move.
What about in Illinois?
Well, they have a lot of wind there.
Yeah, I think who knows?
But
it's a Great California shakeout at 10:19 a.m. Not 10:18, not 10:20, not 10 a.m. 10:19 a.m. So I'm sure the schools will participate. The fire department will have a drill and go out and check their district.
Well, the fire department, St. Joe's, a lot of Burbank has a very good.
Yeah.
But the reason I wanted this put on our show notes, folks, we haven't shaken real bad in a long time.
Ooh.
Have you checked your water? Have you checked your food supply? It's a good reminder. You should be prepared all year long.
I was very lucky that somehow I got on a list. Well, you can always sign up. And I was picked this year by the state of California to receive my house to be earthquake bolted. And the state paid for it.
Not rebolted, bolted.
Bolted.
This house has never been bolted.
So the place called the Foundation Works here in Burbank, I found them and they came and did the work. The state paid for it. In fact, the state final inspection is going to come this next week. But my house is now bolted to the foundation, and I have earthquake insurance, and it costs around $850 a year, but it's going to go down now that I've had this work done, which is nice. So, and it was here's a state program where I pay my taxes and got a benefit from it. So I appreciate that.
Well, it's a good week. We're several days out. Update your earthquake kit. You can buy this stuff anywhere. Go get a new case of water.
You can have a case of water just in the house,
and you can go to burbankfiredepartment.org. And they have what should be in your earthquake kit. We have,
the one thing I always have a lot of extra of, batteries in all sizes.
Yep.
And about every 6 months to a year, I kind of recycle through them and replace them.
And even now you have a bidet, you need to have toilet paper because that power might not work for your bidet.
That's right. Can't turn the hose on either. Okay, moving on to Friday. Well,
it's getting scary in here.
The Starlight Bowl is actually going to be used for something. They're having the Harvest of Horror on Friday and Saturday from 7 to 9:30 p.m. at the Starlight Bowl. Cost is $5 if you're 12 or under, $10 if you're 13 over, but if you walk up, you have to go online. If you walk up that night, it's an extra couple dollars. Great event, I guess they're going to have. They had it last weekend and this weekend. My question is, why aren't they having it closer to Halloween? They're not going to have it next weekend. It doesn't make any sense to me why you wouldn't have it closer to Halloween if it's going to be a Halloween event.
Well, our podcast is going out tonight or tomorrow, and I drove my granddaughter around the other day, last Wednesday. There are a ton of people that are really, now that COVID's done, now that a lot of these actors or these studio people haven't been working, they've been putting in. I mean, I went to a house, a couple of them, I was blown away. So, also besides the city one at Hollywood up there on California, 900 block between Clark and Magnolia, they do a haunted house that is fantastic.
Well, we'll try to get a list of places for you for this show. Young professionals are having their mixer at the West Coast Customs on Friday. That should be a really nice event, and the young professionals do a lot to try to help out in the city. Burroughs on Broadway.
You know what? Let's jump on that real fast. The young professionals, they have they're a great group. They're under the auspices of the Chamber of Commerce. They're helping us out on Holiday in the Park. They've done several. They do several mixers. This one, you get to see the inside of West Coast Customs. That's pretty cool. So,
Absolutely. Burroughs on Broadway is going to start their 3-day run.
are you performing?
Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. You don't want to hear that. That's never going to happen.
If you want to hear a professional, I mean, this is a show that you'd see at the Music Center.
Yeah, I mean, it's absolutely amazing. Absolutely amazing show. So
Brendan Jennings and his
that's always
kids.
sells out. So I would try to get your tickets for this weekend shows.
I believe you can go to our website, myburbank.com. There's an ad there with the address.
Take you right to the ticket page.
Yep.
This weekend, the Historical Society is having
The what?
The Historical Society is
I'm
having
sorry, I had to throw that
their
in.
50th anniversary gala, and at the Historical Society, which will be a great event.
Now, I saw Don this morning at a ribbon cutting.
Don
Baldessaroni.
Baldessaroni, yes.
And I asked him if I have to wear my tuxedo. Because on the invite, did you notice it said black evening wear?
Oh.
My evening wear are shorts and tennis shoes.
Yeah.
So Don said they have a great night lined up, great food, and we'll be there in our fancy clothes.
You will be there because I don't have any fancy clothes, nor do I want to buy any fancy clothes, nor do I ever wear fancy clothes. I'm sorry. That's just who I am.
I'll be there. We'll cover it.
If I ever get elected to the U.S. Senate, they'll be part of that dress code, I guess.
Well, we also, Devin, I think, is going to be reporting on it, so
Yep.
people will be able to.
We'll have a nice story on it.
Yep.
Home LA is having their cornhole fundraiser at the Nickelodeon Playground. Now, Ross, explain to what a cornhole fundraiser is, please, because all kinds of images are dancing around in my head right now.
Yeah, actually, again, this is a fundraiser for Home LA. I know they sold out a lot of tickets. I'll have food and drinks, and cornhole is a game that they used to throw, I think, corn. Now it's a weighted bag
Right.
into a hole so far, and you have a contest, and people win. Again, Home LA serves Burbank, puts a lot of people in housing. A lot of these tenants that are getting evicted, Home LA has helped.
It's
So
helping absolutely.
and Nickelodeon, I think, is just, we are so fortunate that they're lending their event, their location for this. So
Absolutely. Well, that brings us to the end of another show. And before we can have an end of a show, we have to have the infamous Ross's rant. In fact, we're coming with a sound effect for your rant in the future, I think. I'm going to work on that just for you, because your rants have become so popular now in the podcast. So, Ross, give us your rant.
it's funny. I have a couple, and I'm going to keep them short because we're running late on time here. But one of them is years ago, there was a fatality somewhere, and you wouldn't see these memorials set up. I understand setting up candles. I drive by the one up at Glen Oaks and Andover, and there are at least 100 candles melted down, sitting there. I don't know who cleans that and polices that,
Well,
but there's a new one now.
I think they're scared to
Touch 'em.
remove it because they'll be urine sensitive. Why would you do that? This is, and we get it, but at what point?
How long?
How long? How long until we'll never forget their memories, but maybe have a little sign there or something on the pole or something.
There's now one, Magnolia and Victory, where the young lady was killed a
right.
couple weeks ago. That one has grown, and somebody is attending to it because there are fresh flowers almost once a week there.
Yeah, and we're not saying there shouldn't be, but maybe we need to have
And now the new one at Buena Vista and Verdugo.
right.
That's one of the rants. My other rant, I will thank my son for. He's very observant. He loves the city.
Shout out to Matt Benson.
This is a shout out to the kid. He has come over Barham and come around Warner Brothers, and ever since the strike, the center median of flowers are dead and all decayed.
Really?
And that is a city piece of property. That's not Warner Brothers.
No.
But folks, that is the entry to our city from LA via Barham. That is what people see. Do we want people to see that we don't maintain? I get it. We're down on employees, But something
how
like
long
that.
can that could be giving the reason? Oh, we're down on employees. Oh, it takes too long to get a permit. Wow, we're down on employees. Come on. At what point do we need to get that out as an excuse? And
we do a great job on graffiti removal in this city.
yes.
But that median, if it's a plumbing, whatever it is, folks, the city or whoever can do something, let's do it. Because
Well, here's what scares me. Now you bring that up, and I mean that's a great rant. And I got to tell you, right now you're talking about.
thank Matt for it.
Yeah, well, you're talking about phase 2 of Magnolia Park, which will be a center medium put in all the way down Magnolia between Hollywood Way and Buena Vista,
Right.
and have just one lane of traffic each side with a center.
A planter.
So what happens when that medium isn't attended to and it starts to be overgrown or starts to die, like the ones over here by Warner Brothers? So if they can't keep up that small little piece, how are they going to keep up that?
Yep.
They want to put it on that medium there. Even look at Glen Oaks. I've not gone on Glen Oaks lately, but what's the center medium look like there?
Well, but that starts at Providence, and that one is
right, but
kept up. It's grown, it's mowed, and the flowers are up.
okay.
But this one over here, I remember there used to be tons of flowers and everything else.
We need to take a look at some, because I think there's another one at on Burbank Boulevard as you come into the city there too.
Yep.
So we'll take a look at some of those. But that's Matt's a lifelong resident of Burbank and very proud of our city. And he got a lot of that from his father. And you know what, things like that, if they bother him, well, they sure as heck bother us too.
Yep. Good. It's just something. My passion for this city. And when you have something like that just, it's an eyesore, why?
It's like you see an empty field or something, you see weeds, everything's just growing all over the place. It's like, really?
Yep.
I mean, this is Burbank. This is, we need to be better than that.
Well, we know we went a little long. We had a lot of topics. We were told.
What's fun? We started
listening.
We started now. We said we don't have much for the show tonight.
Yeah, we did. We added some other things.
We got our two big mouths.
But I'm hearing from tons of people. You saw it at the State of the City. Other people are telling me they love the show. Our podcasts, not only this one, but Ashley, Devin, you have a new sports one.
We have a new sports one.
I listened. You had one the other day with Devin, with Clint Howard.
Very good.
I'll tell you, I love listening. I've had two other people tell me that.
It was one of our best podcasts, I think. It's just too bad that we couldn't get video for that one, but it was a great podcast. And our first one I did with Coach Bob Hart from Burbank High.
Oh, great one.
Well, first one, it's always a little rough because Bob's first time, but we're going to start having guests on that one too, and we're going to delve into the sports psyche. We're not just going to talk about who's a great athlete or things like that. We're going to talk about what makes a sports person tick inside. What's the thought process? Where's the motivations come from? Where's the stuff that you don't see on the outside? That's what we're going to try to delve into on that thing.
Well, I listen to our podcasts, a majority of all of them. And when I shared tonight with somebody that I was talking to, you do not accept money. You did once and you never did it again because you don't think that's right. But I
think any coach who any high school coach who takes money on the side from their players is a disservice. I think it's just wrong. I think it's. Well,
you know what? It's a good tease. Let them go to that podcast.
Listen to that podcast. So Bob and I talk about that on that. And I just think it's wrong when somebody's taking money, when they're supposed to be coaching them. That's their job. And
I want to add real quick. We have some great stories on myburbank.com. Rich Assad is doing some. Our sports team has done a couple. I tell you, between Ashley and Devin and our other writers, Lisa, we have a lot of great stories. If you want to get your name out there, sponsor a podcast. It's not that expensive.
Yeah.
Give us a call. We have we're grateful for some new advertisers coming online. We got Bertain, who I did a ribbon cutting for,
Wealth Management.
Escobar Wealth Management. And starting November 1st, we have Logix Credit Union.
My goodness.
And
a long time. They've always been promising us, but now they're coming through.
Well, they
long-term advertising. We really appreciate that. In fact, they're going to have a new location at Mariota and
we're going to be there to cover it. We'll be there to cover it. So, folks, I know we went over and there's lots of stuff. Send us your comments. We love hearing from them, even from David Geffen from Burbank Printing. He always talks to us, and I love hearing from them. So that wraps up this week's the week that will be
The week that was.
the week that was the week that will be.
There we go. Okay, we'll talk to you next week. Thanks again for listening.
My Burbank Talks would like to thank all of My Burbank's advertisers for their continued support. Burbank Water and Power, Cusimano Real Estate Group, UME Credit Union, the Burbank Chamber of Commerce, Gain Credit Union, Providence St. Joseph Medical Center, Community Chevrolet, Media City Credit Union, UCLA Health, Tequila's Cantina and Grill, UPS Store on 3rd Street, and Hill Street Cafe.